All right, Tricia, you had a question about authorship.
Yes, authorship of blog posts, because we've talked about how that can be important for Google and SEO
Right.
moving forward.
Yes.
Um, and how having a specific author have their own page and associating blog posts to the author, specific authors that wrote that.
Yeah.
So I understand that the concept of that. But I'm a little bit unclear as to how to implement that
Right.
specifically on like a WordPress site. So like if I went to one of your blog posts on Reliable Acorn and
Yeah.
clicked your name, it went to another page that just had a list of your blog post. So then I was like, okay, so what are we? I thought we were supposed to have a separate page for the author that talked a little bit about the author and the credentials and stuff.
Right. 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 Right.
So
Right.
tell me how to implement this properly, I guess is
So,
the question.
number one, the cobbler's kids got no shoes, so don't use my site
Well,
as a great example of this.
I was going to use mine and it was the same way. So I
All
was like,
right.
I'm going to put David's link.
What I've done for my clients who pay me rather than me who doesn't pay me
Okay.
is right, even though I guess I do pay me. Um, there's a feature within WordPress with users, right? And users will have, so like you can like let's say this, a client will give me access to my own account on their website, right? I don't want my client to share their main account with
Correct.
me. They should add me as a user.
Mhm.
So whenever I publish a blog post on their account, it gets published under my name, right? Because I'm the user who's publishing that. I can, however, within the WordPress interface, go and change the author from me to somebody else, right? Because I don't want my name on my client's site. I'm not an expert, they are. Well, what I do with one of my clients, actually, at this point, I can say I've done this with all of my clients, is every author who's contributing something to the blog has their own WordPress user account. And there's different tiers of access. I give them authorship tier. And you have to add an email address to set this up. But I make a fake email address and I don't forward the login information to them
Okay. So you're
because I
creating
kind of
it.
don't want them logging in and messing with the site,
Okay. Yeah. So you're creating
right?
that
Right.
for
And
them.
so I can then, because they're added as a user with authorship permissions, I can then go in from adding a blog post and simply change the name from me to them. Now, there's a second step that will involve developer work
Okay.
that will make this better. Namely, within each user, there is space for stuff like what's your LinkedIn profile? What's your TikTok profile link? What's a description about who you are and what you're doing? Those are fields within users, but sometimes themes are not developed to display those elements.
Okay.
So I've had to go back for my clients to developers and say, hey, I've added a description for each author, a little short bio, and a link. I like links to LinkedIn
Mm-hmm.
for credibility. Could you make sure that on their unique author page, a unique snippet with a link to their LinkedIn is showing? So they just have to go into the template for authors or create a template for authors if there's not one already, and just enable that to display. I haven't done that on my site, so there's two authors, there's me and my content manager, and neither of us have bios. But you can still see which ones she wrote, which ones I wrote.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Jamie, you're transcribing this right now. Thank you. So um, the point is that take that extra step to say who this is that's writing it and give some credentials about this person. A short bio of why they're an expert in this field and their experience, a link to their LinkedIn profile. Why we do this is because in the manual review guidelines, which is our guidelines to EEAT, right? It recommends you actually research who the author of the posts are to establish credibility. And and so if we can provide information, mind you, this is from a LinkedIn is a site they've created, so they could potentially lie and say, I'm a PhD from Oxford if I wanted to. But typically, LinkedIn is pretty credible because you're going to use that profile to say, hey, I'm using LinkedIn for LinkedIn's sake. So as long as I'm confident the LinkedIn profile is correct and active, I'll go ahead and link to that as not a third party source, but a user generated source of information that says, here's their education, stuff like that.
Okay.
So that little extra effort will establish, because I am also behind the scenes going the extra effort to always publish in the name of someone from the company.
Yeah.
I never publish stuff on my clients' sites without their input.
Yeah.
And I want them to say, I'm comfortable with you publishing this in my name. Now, when it comes to a doctor or a lawyer, that's really hard.
Yeah.
Right? But even some of my specialties that I work with, they're really critical of the content, but they're good, because everyone else who's competing against them is having a hard time getting their content published.
Yeah.
And if I get okay from the client to publish it, even if it's only one a month, that's better
Yeah.
than some anonymous content in the name of the blog anonymously, right? So that is one of the ways you could do it. Now, remember, we're trying to establish EEAT, so that's from the manual review guidelines, so it's not part of the algorithm. However, I like to take the manual review guidelines as what Google would like the algorithm to be. Right? So it's not that Google is saying, oh, I can tell who this author is, I'm going to rank it better, but helps establish credibility. Cool?
Yes, one follow up with that.
Yeah.
So now when I have the link would have currently, like, so let's say yours currently has when you click on your author page, it just has a link of your current blogs. So if you were to implement that, then it's going to be the same link and then have a bio and other things before it has the or is it not going
Right. Before or after, it doesn't really matter. I think before is easier just because it's like, who is David? Here's
to? Yeah.
David. Here's what he's written.
So as far as once the author is updated with the bio and the links and that they're shown to say make them visible, is there something we need to do to say, oh, make it show ahead of the blog posts, the blog?
That's all up to your developer adding the
Okay.
values in there. You
Okay.
just tell them this is where I
Okay.
want it.
Okay. I'd like above, but
Yeah,
okay.
no, I think that's a good place.
Okay. That answers my question. Thank you.
I have a question
Yeah.
about that though.
Please.
Do you really think it should be above? Because when people are looking for information and clicking on a post, say they maybe I'm so
But it's not on the post.
Yeah.
It's on the
It's on
post archive for that author.
Yeah. So when you're on
the
a blog
post archive.
post,
Yeah.
you're clicking on the author's name of that blog post, and that's taking you to
Yeah,
the
okay,
author.
yeah.
Yeah.
And so we're
Right.
saying that the bio and then little
Is
snippets of
there.
all that author's blog posts beneath
Yeah,
it.
okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
good. Okay.
So if
I got
on
it.
an individual post, it makes more sense at the bottom. You're right.
Yes.
Yeah.